الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر
الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله
أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.
حي على الصلاة
لا حول ولا
حي على الصلاة
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
لا إله إلا الله.
اللهم هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة. إن الحمد لله, all praise and thanks is due to Allah. We praise Him, we thank Him, and at the same time we beg His guidance and His forgiveness. And we seek refuge with Him from the evil of our own souls, our egos, and of course from the evil consequences of our actions. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides from His love, compassion, and His mercy, then know for sure, brothers and sisters, there is no one who can misguide that person. And on the other end of the spectrum, whoever He leads astray from His infinite justice and from His wisdom, there is no one who can guide that person, no matter what you try. And I bear witness to the oneness, the uniqueness, and godhood of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that He has no partners and no share in this, and that there is no one who is deserving of worship except Him. And I further testify that Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, is His servant and His final messenger. O you who believe, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have a consciousness of Him, an awareness of Him, a mindfulness of Him that is rooted in love, that is rooted in trust, that is rooted in fear of Him. The fear, the consciousness, the awareness that He is deserving of you and I, and don't die. Rather, don't you dare die except in a state of submission to His will, i.e. don't die except as Muslims. Brothers and sisters in Islam, we know that the Prophet ﷺ was a masterful teacher, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with many gifts. And from amongst those gifts, those things that were unique to the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned one that was known as Jawami'ul Kalim, that he was blessed with comprehensive, succinct, and iconic speech. That the Prophet ﷺ, as a masterful teacher, in spite of the varied backgrounds of the ummah that was in front of him, men and women, young and old, of varying backgrounds, some Persians, some who at least were raised by Romans, the Arabs, of course, those who eventually even from Al-Habash. But the different people that he had to teach and make sure that they received this message, he was able to do so in such a brief yet lasting way, which is why I say iconic speech. That he could say one phrase and it would be words to live by. And from those words, brothers and sisters, that I hope to share with you today is from an authentic hadith that is collected in Sahih Bukhari, as well as in Sunan al-Bayhaqi and other places. And it was told by the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ. Because of course, again, a masterful teacher, he didn't wait till somebody was high school age or college age and then start teaching them. But rather, they could be at the tender age of 7, 8 years old, 6 years old. And on this occasion, Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, he taught him, and there are many occasions where he would teach him these iconic words. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس شبابك قبل هرمك وصحتك قبل سقمك وغناك قبل فقرك وفراغك قبل شغلك وحياتك قبل موتك. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he told this young man, and mind you, when I say young, he had to have been 10, maybe 11 years old, because when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam died, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma was only 13 years old. So he was a young boy. And yet he taught him these life lessons, which you and I, brothers and sisters, especially those of us who are parents, but in general as a community, that there should be a shift in our mindset on these things that the Prophet ﷺ said that you should treasure, that you should value, that you should take advantage of. What are those 5 things? Number 1, he said, take advantage, treasure, covet, protect, utilize your youth before your old age. And brothers and sisters, as we all know, on Friday, we have such a short period of time together. And I'm going to try to squeeze in as much as I can. Because as I mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ, anyone who has to give a khutbah every week, you got all kinds of people in front of you. And you trying to hit as many as you possibly can. So for a moment, I'm talking to young people. Taking advantage of your young age. Not thinking that you have all the time in the world. Because believe you me, you do not have all the time in the world. As a matter of fact, you don't know how much time you have. And so although you're young now, you might be in middle school, you might be in high school, you might be in college, graduate school, you just got married, you only have 1 or 2 kids, you don't even have a mortgage yet, and you still consider yourself young. Brothers and sisters, the Prophet ﷺ tells us that we need to prioritize during that time. And I know for a fact, as someone who was born and raised here, and quite frankly, I would say all over the world, that oftentimes from every angle you are being told really that you only have 2 priorities. Really that you only have 2. 1, your education, which of course we know, especially many of us sitting in this room, many of our parents, myself included, suffered through civil war, refugee camp, going from one place to another to land in an unknown country, have to learn a different language, and many of them at the top of their list of priorities, why they did it and went through it, so that our children can get what? An education. And no doubt that's valuable, no doubt that's important. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying don't get your education, but that should not be your number 1 priority, even though you might hear otherwise. Because you see from the behavior so much, including families and parents, who seem to instill in their children, that's the only thing you got to do. And you have no other responsibilities. We don't want you to work. We don't want you to do this. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. We just want you to get good grades. That's it. And then what ends up happening all too often in my office as an imam, I get He doesn't know how to take care of himself. He still don't even know how to groom himself. And subhanallah, but partly the blame is not just the young people or the parents and the people who rear them, because all he thought of his whole life until he was married, all I got to do is get good grades. But any other skill, any other responsibilities, I don't know what people thought. If it was just by osmosis, he was going to get it. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. But young people, you have to wake up for yourself. Number one priority should be your deen, your iman, your faith over everything else. Because as you get older, it will only be that you will be barraged with and hit with so many different things that are constantly trying to attack, trying to snatch from, diminish, cover up your iman and your faith. Whether it's from school, whether it's from social media, whether it's from your job, whatever it is, it's going to be trying to attack it. So taking the responsibility on your own before everybody else. And the reason why I say that is because in Islam, the concept of being a teenager does not exist. Either you are children, boys and girls, or you are men and women in Islam. And when does that threshold be crossed, brothers and sisters? As soon as the angels start writing down. Khalas, that's it. You got to pray. Sister, you got to cover. As soon as you hit puberty, and we know what those markers are, as soon as young man, you hit puberty, khalas, that's it. You got to make hajj. You got to pay zakat if you got the money, if you're able to do so. You got to pray 5 times. You got to do Ramadan. You have to. You are a man now. And if you sin, if you disobey Allah, you will be answerable for that. But you be like, but I hit puberty when I was 13 years old. Hey, that's what Allah said. That you a man now. Khalas. And I know the society, how things are, it's going to tell, oh, you're just a kid. Yeah. And the second thing that I said, 2 responsibilities, right? Or focuses. Usually that and just having fun. Just enjoy your time when you're young. Because once you get older, and yes, should you have fun? Of course. I'm not saying that you're supposed to be all work and no play. That's not what we're talking about. But like I said, our community is being deeply damaged by a bunch of young men and young sisters who are ill prepared for the responsibilities of life outside of education. Because then they become what? Hyper-focused in school and hyper-focused later on, then their career. Do you notice that in other communities, if you go to a church, if you go to a synagogue, you'll see young men and women, college age, recently married, and they still got time to volunteer at their synagogue or at their church. Doctors Without Borders, where a man who's 25 years old, he's got a full-time career, he's got a job, he's got all kinds of responsibilities, but he still has time to go to Kenya in the summer to go help poor people in Kenya and provide medical services. But how many masajid you come around in the community and you ask, brother, do you have 5, 10, 20 minutes to help out at the masjid? Wallahi, brother, I'm so busy. I can't help you. I don't have time to volunteer. Wallahi, indi shughul. Okay, you telling me that guy who had to take the MCATs, had to go to residency, blah, 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 and he somehow found time in his way to go to another country, might have been a country that you and I are from. He ain't from that country. He don't speak that language. He has a different religion from those people, and he found time. But we can't find time, and we say we on the haqq. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Young brothers and sisters, we got to take advantage of your youth, i.e. prioritize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and service in his deen, because there's going to be a point when you're young now. Prayer, your vitality, your vigor, your all of that, but then it's going to be like, all of a sudden I got a pain in my knee and I don't even know why. I got pain in my lower back, and all of a sudden it's going to be harder for you to make ruku'. It's going to be harder for you to make sujood. It's going to be harder for you to help out and to do things, just because physically your body, the way that Allah built this system, you can't do it. So while you have that vigor, do that. And now for the parents, preparing our young people, brothers, our young sons and daughters, giving them responsibilities in a timely fashion, in what is appropriate. I'm not saying dumping on them, but I want you to look at the example of the Prophet ﷺ. When he was receiving delegations who spoke different languages, that spoke Hebrew, that spoke other languages, who did he take to be his interpreter, his official interpreter? Young man, Zayd ibn Harith. Zayd ibn Harith, how old? 13 years old, 14 years old. Here, you're going to be, come here. You seem real sharp. You seem real intelligent. I want you to learn these languages. He said, I learned those languages, the language of Hebrew, in a matter of days. That's how sharp and intelligent he was. But he had meaningful responsibility. Now, something that would overwhelm him, but enough that he feels like, you know what, I have responsibility. So that later on, when bigger, more heavier responsibilities came, and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he decides that we're going to have to codify and put the Quran into one book. Who's the one who is sought after? Zayd again, Zayd ibn Harith. And he's given responsibility to be what? To be the overseer for all of the other Sahaba to collect the Quran. But he had earlier responsibilities that are related to that. Usama bin Zayd, again, one of the last things that the Prophet ﷺ did, made him to be the general of an army when he was only 18 years old. And do you know who was in the ranks of that army where Usama bin Zayd is giving commands? This battalion over here, you do reconnaissance over here, you got to go and flank the enemy over here, or make sure that we don't get flanked on this side. You know who is in those ranks? Umar ibn Khattab, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Kibar as-Sahaba, bal min akbar as-Sahaba. And they're under the command of who? Usama bin Zayd. At 18 years old, he was given responsibility. Parents, we need to do the same with our young. We need to do the same with our young. So that's the first thing, your youth before your old age. Secondly, he said, your health before your illness. And again, brothers and sisters, we all know you're healthy today and you can get sick tomorrow. You have no idea when you could get ill. It could be, la qaddar Allah, la samah Allah. May Allah protect all of you and protect all of us. Allahumma ameen. But keeping it 100, it could be that you get informed that you have cancer. May Allah protect us. Or that you have some disease that there's no cure for. But if you don't have that call now, utilizing this tremendous blessing that really the people who really understand its blessings and the value of it are the people who are sick. They're the ones who truly understand the value of good health. And the Prophet ﷺ, again, trying to shift your thinking and your view of your health. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted, brothers and sisters. And both of these things that I just mentioned from the words of the Prophet ﷺ, both our youth and your health. How many of our brothers and sisters and all of us collectively watch both their youth and their health, their mental health, their spiritual, emotional health is being snatched from them? In Lebanon, in Philistine, in Sudan, in Bangladesh, their youth and their health being snatched from them. How many of us we knew and heard about them having to drink filthy, dirty water that's virtually sewage? Is that not being, they can't take advantage of their health now? They have no choice. Women who can't even give birth, they got to give birth on the side of the road. Maternity deaths and infant deaths because the hospitals are all destroyed. And here we are sitting on comfortable carpet with air conditioning. Take advantage of what you have while you have it, because you don't know when it's going. Thirdly, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, take advantage of what wealth you have or your riches before your poverty. And subhanAllah, if you do so, don't think of it as you have to give away everything. You have responsibilities that you're supposed to fulfill. You have family. You have children. You have bills you got to pay. You got family back home. You got projects you got to take. Whatever it is, take care of your responsibilities, but do not limit yourself in looking after those who are vulnerable and looking after others. Because in doing so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will look after you and only enrich you even further. As he mentions in his glorious book in Surah Al-Baqarah, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت سبع سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله واسع عليم. And this is ayah number 261 in Surah Al-Baqarah. He says that those who give of their wealth in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is as if it is a seed that has been planted and it has 7 other seeds. And in every one of those is another 100 seeds, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He multiplies for those that He wills. And indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all knowing, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all encompassing. Meaning what? That you give a little bit and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not simply multiplies it, but exponentially multiplies it. Huh? And this is what it means, brothers and sisters, giving to those who are vulnerable. How many of us are taking care of orphans right now? We see them every day. How many of us are helping with our brothers and sisters in Sudan or in Philistine or in any of the places where they might be struggling and suffering? Now, I know you hear me saying that because that's what we're hearing a lot about right now, but it could be Somalia. It could be Ethiopia. It could be the Uyghur Muslims in China. Wherever you just put your finger, anywhere on the globe where there are Muslims, and you will find there are Muslims in need, for sure. You ain't even got to go that far. It could be Muslims right here. Tayyib. Fourthly, he says your free time before your work, yani before you get busy. And this one, brothers and sisters, wallahi, it impacts all of us. But I would say, especially young people, because they think they have all the free time in the world, right? Where you still have 20, 22-year-old, 23-year-old, 25-year-old brother getting up at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Mom and dad is still working. People in the household still working. And this brother ain't got time to help and participate financially. He ain't got to work. Memorize Quran. He ain't got to memorize Quran. Volunteer at a Muslim organization. He ain't got to do that. He could help other family members. There's so many different things that somebody could do. And yet we have so many of our young people, right, wasting their free time. And Allah musta'an, but I can't say it's only young people. All of us are affected by this. All of us, especially when it comes to social media. How many times you can walk into a room? So many times it's become the norm. You walk into a room, you'll see the young people and you'll see the old people. And when you walk in there, every last one of them got a device. And every last one of them, it could be no problem to scroll hour after hour. On what? Is it a college course? Is it an online course to learn some skills and get a certificate? No, it's just, we just scrolling, you know what I'm saying? And letting the algorithm tell us what we need to think about. Because it's whatever pops up when you swipe up. So whatever pops up, the algorithm is telling, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what's on my mind right now. Wasting our time. You don't know how much you have. It is not, all of these things, by the way, are all related to time and they are all finite. And then lastly, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, your life before your death. To take advantage, to treasure, to value your life before your death. And of course, we know, brothers and sisters, the angel of death himself doesn't know when he's coming to knock on your door. None of us know. And you don't know when you're leaving this world. Taking advantage of the life, the fact that you woke up today, brothers and sisters, that I woke up today is another opportunity to pray. It's another opportunity to give in charity. It's another opportunity to help others who are vulnerable. It's another opportunity to spread goodness into the world. It's another opportunity, if I'm sinning and I'm doing wrong, to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to apologize and make tawbah to him and say, Ya Allah, you gave me another moment. Let me come into your good graces. Ya Allah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. I say what I say first and foremost for myself and then for all of you. And I beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. And I exhort and I remind all of you to do the same. Indeed, he is the oft forgiving and the especially merciful. Alhamdulillah wahda wa kafa wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammadin alayhi afdalu salatu wa tamma taslim thumma amma ba'd. So brothers and sisters, just to recap, we said that the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us to take advantage of 5 things. To take advantage of our youth before our old age, our health before our illness, our riches before our poverty, our free time before our work, and our life before our death. And the summary of this is the Prophet ﷺ trying to tell us, change your mindset. Change your understanding of time. Because all of these are related to time. Every last one of them. They're all related. Change your mindset and understand, number one, that it is finite. It's not limitless. You're not going to stay young forever. You're not going to be healthy forever. You're not going to have, you may have money, and at the end of the day, whether you lose it in this life or you lose it when you die, and of course, death itself, all of these things are related to time. It's not finite. And as such, that means it should be that much more valuable. Why are diamonds so valuable? Because it's a limited commodity. And so everybody wants it. That's number one, understanding that time is finite. That means what? You need to get better. You and I, we need to get better at time management. Another thing, brothers and sisters, aside from us changing our mindset, is our priorities. What are your priorities? Now, obviously, as a khatib, as a religious figure, I can come here and tell you God should be your priority. The hereafter should be your priority. Of course, that's what you all here for is Friday. And that's what I'm supposed to do every Friday. You're going to go back to work. You're going to go back to school. And I got to remind you, just like I remind myself, our number one priority is God and the hereafter, which, of course, that's the conclusion of the hadith, your death. But then how you prioritize that, what you're going to do in your life personally, I can't tell you each and every how there's somebody in graduate school. He going to have to figure out what he got to do to get his priorities straight, that it's all serving that major priority, which is God and the hereafter. The one who's a mother, a homemaker, and what she got to do, again, she got to think for herself. But the main priority is what, brothers and sisters? God and the hereafter. And then after that, everything else will fall in line and fall in place. And then lastly, ayyuhal ikhwa wal akhawat, is that we have to understand that when you prioritize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, and I will give you a suggestion about how you prioritize. This is a suggestion. First and foremost, you prioritize Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His rights. Secondly, yourself. Yourself, you have rights. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Inna nafsaka alayka haqqa. He said, even your rights, whether it's your mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health, you got to look after that. Thirdly, your family. Thirdly, your family. As the Prophet ﷺ also, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather teaches us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is men and stones. Fourthly is your community, because they're the ones who are close proximity to you. They're the people who deserve your good neighborly, right, contribution and your help, and then for them to be able to lean on you, your community. And then fifthly, the ummah at large, the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then of course humanity at large. But there's something for you to contribute in all of those arenas, but in order, with priority. How can you go and save people and help other people outside of your community and you're neglecting your own family? That don't even sound right. That don't even make no sense. And I could go on, but as I said, our time is limited and I've already gone over. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me. But we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon his good family, his good companions, and all of those who follow them in righteousness until the last day. Allahumma izz al-Islam wal Muslimin. Allahumma izz al-Islam wal Muslimin wa dammir a'da' ad-din ya Rabb al-Alameen. Oh Allah, we ask you to heal and cure anyone who is here with any sickness. Oh Allah, alleviate and cure their sickness that leaves no trace of illness behind, ya Rabb al-Alameen. And anyone who may be struggling and dealing with debt, oh Allah, we ask you to alleviate and remove their debt for them, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Oh Allah, and anyone who is in prison and incarcerated from the Muslims, Ya Allah, please free them with expediency and quickly as possible, Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram. And all of those who fight in the cause of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, upon the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, facilitate and grant them victory, Ya Rabbal Alameen. And all of the Muslim brothers and sisters who are suffering all over the world, oh Allah, alleviate their suffering and their difficulties, and use us and utilize us to be a means of alleviating that cause of suffering and difficulty. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Innahu waliyu dhalik wa qadirun alayhi wa akhiru da'wan. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa aqimus salah.